If you're sick and tired of savings and checking accounts that are only paying like a 0.5% interest rate on your funds, you want to watch this video. In this video, I'm going to break down 3 different ideas that you can use to boost up your savings account or emergency fund today. Welcome to the Finance Rebel Show. I'm your host, Kamari Ellis. I'm a tax accountant, reformed financial advisor, and former portfolio manager. The Finance Rebel Show is all about helping you to better master your money. We talk about taxes, stocks, business, economics, anything that it takes to help you get closer to financial freedom. Today, we're talking about savings, emergency funds, or actually what I like to call them, opportunity funds. Specifically, how to get more bang for your buck when you put money aside for rainy days. So, there's a couple things before we get ready to rock and roll into this. Quick disclaimer, this is not investment advice. Everything on this video, everything on this broadcast is about entertainment and educational purposes only. Please keep that in mind as we get into the show. Alright, so since we're talking about emergency funds, savings funds, what I call opportunity funds, let's talk a little bit about what they are. Alright, now, an emergency fund, again, I like to call them opportunity funds, are a fund, an account where you put money aside for the what ifs in life, right? What if the roof falls in? What if you get into a car accident? What if you get sick and have to go to the hospital and have medical bills? What if you're unemployed? What if a major act of God comes into play, like COVID, right? All those what ifs. So your opportunity fund helps you be prepared for those things. So keep this in mind. The more money you have in savings means the more financial security you have created for yourself. Now, anytime we're talking about a savings account or emergency fund, or opportunity fund, we're talking about cash, or what I would call, what the accounting and financial industry calls cash-like equivalents, right? Things that can be quickly converted into cash, right? Things that don't have a whole lot of tax implications, things that don't have a whole lot of financial fees attached to them. That's ideally what you want to have when it comes to your emergency fund. Now, this is a question I get a lot. How much should you have in your opportunity fund / emergency fund / savings account? I personally advise people to start off with $500, right? You can start out putting $5 away 100 times. That's simple. Every time you get paid, just put $5 away. Now, if $5 isn't enough, you can do $10. You can put away $10 away every time you get paid. 50 times, right? $10 away, 50 times, that's $500. If that's not enough, if you got more money in your budget, you can do $100, right? You can put $100 aside into your account for emergencies, for the what ifs in life, 5 times. Then you have your first $500 in savings. Then I recommend, I advise people to then go to $1,000, okay? And then from $1,000, I say, go to $5,000. Now, once we look at the $5,000, I tell people to have a month's worth of income put away into their savings account. Once they hit that phase, I tell them to put away 3 months worth of income into your savings account, right? Then once we get to 3 months, we go to 6 months, and then to a year. But it's a progression. It's gradual. It's not all at once. The goal is to get at least a year's worth of income into your savings account. Now, a lot of people think that's aggressive. A lot of people think that's a lot. Well, if you consider what we just went through when we went through COVID, the pandemic, you know that a lot of people were out of work or their business shut down for more than a year. And I've been saying this way before COVID, and again, people thought I was crazy. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, Kamari, people normally say 3 months worth of expenses or 6 months worth of expenses. And that's cool too. That's old school financial advisor, financial planner lingo. They haven't updated it for the times in which we live in. And so me, I'm always looking out at the landscape, at what's going on. And I want to give my clients the best possible advice ever. So I'm not going to tell you to use some old outdated formula that they're giving everybody that's been coming through them for the last 50 years, right? Times change, tactics have to change, strategies have to change. So I say a year. Quick reminder, this is not investment advice. We are here for entertainment and educational purposes only. Now, most people put their emergency funds into a savings account, a high yield checking account, sometimes a money market fund. And I get the question all the time, Kamari, these accounts aren't paying me any money. I get it. I will say this though. Most Americans cannot handle a $400 emergency. So oftentimes I don't even talk about the more intermediate or advanced strategies of what you can do with your savings account. Because again, if you've got a year's worth of income set aside, no, we don't just want to have it sitting in an account getting 0.5% interest. And I'll show you that in a minute. But since most people can't survive that $400 that $400 emergency, I tend to say on the more conservative side. But that will be doing you all a disservice, because I know there are some of you who have $1,000, $10,000, $100,000 in savings in your emergency fund. You're fully funded and you're ready to go, and you're looking for more options. You're looking for more opportunities to make that money work for you and grow. And I get it. And so here I just pulled up a quick listing from bankrate.com, right? From bankrate.com, where they list out the most aggressive savings accounts that are out there in the nation, right? So right here we see Valley Direct has a 0.55% interest rate. Marcus, which is a Goldman Sachs product, has a 0.5% interest rate, or 0.5%, right? Sally Mae has a 0.5% interest rate. It's really sexy here. And I get it. So again, people are frustrated. Even Citi, a 5% interest rate. Being that interest rates are damn near zero, you're not going to get a whole lot of interest on the books given away from the banks. So you have to look for some other alternative ways in order to pump up your emergency fund, your cash fund, your savings fund, and do it in a really smart, responsible, less volatile way. Okay, so I'm going to share three options for you to look at in order for you to pump up your savings, right? You can use none, you can use 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Or all of the above, or just throw it all away in the trash. But here's three options for you to pump your savings that aren't necessarily savings accounts, mutual funds, or CDs, which I kind of call certificates of death. So here are some of the things that I'm looking at when I'm giving some of my clients advice when we're talking about boosting up their cash accounts, right? It's a mix of, let's see, I-bonds, old school I-bonds. That's what grandma and nana used to give out back in the day. You probably remember the EE bonds. Well, I'm talking about the I-bonds. These are the inflation bonds, all right? And you can buy those pretty easily. Also, I'm looking at preferred shares, and I'm looking at treasury bonds. Inflation protected treasury bonds, to be certain. And so the very first ones I'm looking at are I-bonds, right? We want to look at things that are cash-like equivalents, don't have a whole lot of fluctuation, meaning the price doesn't go up and down a whole lot, doesn't have a whole lot of risk involved with it. By the way, there's always some risk involved to a certain degree, but for this first one there's really no risk at all associated with it. Again, I-bonds. I-bonds work really, really well. They've been around for a long time. They're issued by the federal government, but we'll come back and talk about those in a little bit. All right, preferred shares. Preferred shares usually pay a really high dividend rate, usually don't have a whole lot of volatility or up and down in the overall price. They stay pretty stable. Now, things can happen at times. Again, things can happen, but the likelihood of them just going to zero is close to none. All right. And then I'm also looking at treasury bonds. All right. Remember, this is not investment advice. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Now, all three of those ideas are, again, cash and cash-like equivalents. So this is a way for you to, again, pump up your savings account so you can get more return, so your money isn't just sitting somewhere getting 0.5%. Okay, I talked about I bonds, right? I savings bonds. All right, so I'm going to pull them up here. We've had some new developments on here, and actually, I just discovered this, right? If any of you rock with me, been watching my channel and hanging out with me, you know I do what's called Wealthy Wednesdays. Every week at 8 p.m. I do a live stream here to answer people's money questions here. And somebody actually asked me about I savings bonds. Now, I haven't been looking at them in quite some time, right? That's why I'm really thankful to you, the audience. But one of the viewers, one of the listeners said, "Hey, Kamari, what do you think about I bonds?" And they said, "Well, can you take a look at it for me?" And as I looked at it, I saw that I bonds right now are paying a 7.12% interest rate. 7.12% interest rate. That's a far cry from that 0.5%, right? Far cry. That's almost 700 times more of a percent. Let's say 650 times more of a percentage rate that you would get basically just sticking your money in a savings account. And guess what? This is issued by the United States federal government. So it's basically secured. When we always think about investing, we always want to think about the risk rate. What are the chances of risk? What are the chances of losing money? The government, the federal government, the United States federal government always pays their bills, has never had a default. So in the finance world, we say there is a zero chance of default, or this is risk-free money. So you don't have to take any risk for this. And when you're thinking about investments, you always got to think about risk again, but paying 7.1%. That's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. Now, here's a couple of things you need to think about, right? These bonds run for 30 years, right? You can put the money in and you can pull it out after 1 year. Now, if you pull it out before then, you get what's called a 3-month interest penalty. So let's just say you had it in for 11 months and you want to pull the money out. They're going to hit you with a penalty, a 3-month penalty. And so you would have only made interest for, 8 months. You would only made interest for 8 months. Had it in there for 11 months, got a penalty for 3 months, so you only made interest for 8 months. That's still very good. But again, all of these ideas that I'm giving you are for people who have great savings levels. All right. If you have less than $1,000, this is not for you. Just walk away, turn me off. I'm sorry that I wasted your time. All right. So let's keep going. Now, again, there is no penalty redemption. There's no penalty if you go up to 5 years. No penalty whatsoever in these I bonds. So keep that in mind. 7.12% from November, started in November to April of 2022. I will keep you updated to see what it changes to in April, but I'm thinking it's going to still be pretty high. Why? Because these I savings bonds are tied to inflation. There's a way they're tied to inflation, and you can buy them in $25 increments, $50 increments. I want to say all the way up to, let's pull it up on the screen again. Let's pull it back up on the screen again. So in a calendar year, you can buy up to 10,000 in electronic I bonds at Treasury Direct, or you can buy $5,000 in paper bonds. So that's just one option you have if you're looking for alternatives to a regular savings account. Okay. Now, the next tip, literal tip, TIP, is actually a ticker symbol that you can look up again, ticker symbol TIP, which also is linked to Treasury Inflation Bonds. Well, these TIP stands for Treasury Inflation Protected Bonds, again, issued by the federal government. And so I pulled up this chart here. This is the lifetime chart of the security. Now, it's an ETF. All right, it's an exchange traded fund, so it is subject to the whims of the market. However, it usually doesn't fluctuate that much, and you don't have to ever worry about this fund going out of business, because everything that this fund owns and holds are issued by the United States federal government. Okay, so we can see going back to, 2004, it's been up, right? And we see it ran down a little bit. in 08, 09 during the Great Depression, ran back up, fell down, ran back up to about in 2013, ran back down a bit. Then it's been sideways for the most part. And then recently it saw a spike starting in 2018, and now it's back up. Now, again, there will be some fluctuation. There will be some changes in overall valuation. This is for that extra money that you just got laying around and you want to put it to work and you want to make sure it works for you. You got it? All right. Just want to make sure we're clear about that. Again, this is not for folks that only got $1,000. It's not for them. It's not for you. This is a goal to aspire to, but it's not for you. Remember, this is not investment advice. All right. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only. But again, that's TIP, TIP, and I will link in the description a link that you can go to and get more information about this. All right. You can buy TIP though in your overall brokerage account. And that could be an account specifically just for your savings, your emergency, your opportunity fund. Now, this right here, this is a security. Now, they say you're not supposed to have any feelings for securities, but I have used this security a lot with a lot of my clients, and I actually appreciate it because it does what you want it to do. It pays out a great dividend, and it doesn't fluctuate that much. All right, so I appreciate this dividend. I appreciate this ETF. This is another ETF, by the way, right? And the ETF symbol for this is PFF. PFF, it's another iShares product. It stands for iShares Preferred and Income Securities. Again, ticker symbol PFF. And the part of the reason why I like this so much is because, again, we saw a big dip in 2009, 2008, right? That's going to happen. That's going to happen to any security that's on the marketplace. It's going to be subject to whatever's going on in the economy. So you'll see that, but it bounced back. And then when you look at the security, it's basically like steady as it goes, right? It doesn't fluctuate too much down or up. That's why I said if this is for your extra money that you have that's just sitting around, that's just getting beat down by inflation, that's in your savings account. You make good income, you have good saving habits, and you're like, wow, what else can I do here? So again, you'll see this security will go up maybe to $39. It might fall down to about 35, then it'll bounce back up. Then it might fall down, then it'll bounce back up. But in a way, it's just kind of range bound between, let's say, $40 and $35. It took a dip here. Again, in March 20th, again, another anomaly in the economy when COVID got going, and then it bounced back up. Again, the majority of the holdings in this account or in this ETF are preferred shares, preferred stocks. So when you get a chance, look up preferred stocks. I'll also put that in a link as well so you can educate yourself on what are preferred stocks. Preferred stocks are like stocks that trade, but they don't trade, and they're usually kind of issued privately to some of the big wigs that are big investors in the company, right? If you ever look in the news, you'll look at Warren Buffett. He owns a lot of preferreds in a lot of big companies, right? So you will be investing along the likes of a Warren Buffett, kind of, sort of, okay? So just keep that in mind. So we have, again, three ideas, savings bonds, TIPS, TIP, TIPS, ETF, and PFF, which is the ETF. All three of them are like cash and cash equivalents. So TIP right now is paying an interest rate of 5.09%. Again, 5%. Let's just say 5% if we're going to round it off. It's paying 5%. Far cry from what you're getting in your savings account. Okay? And PFF is paying an interest rate of roughly 4.16%. Just rounded down to 4%. So you got a 7% option, right? You have a 5% option, and you have a 4% option. Again, savings bonds, 7%. TIP ETF is paying roughly 5%. PFF, which is the preferred shares option, is paying roughly 4%. All right. None of them really fluctuate a whole lot. All of them are really pretty stable candidates run by good companies. Again, PFF and the TIP are both manufactured and created by iShares, which is owned by BlackRock, which is the world's largest institutional money manager, or biggest money manager in the globe. Okay, so it's in a safe place. You can keep the money safe and secure, and it'll be there just in case you want to take advantage of something that went really, really bad in the market. You know what they say? When the blood's on the street, it's time to buy. Right? One of the old Rothschilds said that, and people keep bringing it up over and over and over again. All right, and also, again, for those ETFs, I will put the links in the comments, in the description. All right, so remember, personal finance is personal. This content is here to help you with some ideas. I'm not here to be a financial advisor. I'm not here to be a financial planner. I'm not here to do any of that. I'm just here to try to help you increase your overall savings. So what are you doing to pump up your savings account? So if you all appreciated this, hit the like button, share it out, leave a comment below. Question for the day: are you actively funding your savings account, your opportunity fund, your emergency fund? If so, leave a comment below and tell us what you're doing. Until the next time, I'm Kamari Ellis, the Finance Rebel. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.